Good morning, and thank you again to Andrew and Sandia for your generous support. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight, or this morning, I should say. It's not nighttime yet, but when we walk out this door, it could be. So I've talked to Mayor Marchand, and he's got life jackets and lifeboats available for us if we need them when we leave the theater tonight. This is our third annual conversation with Tri-Valley mayors. So I'd like to thank all the mayors for coming today. We have Vice Mayor Armstrong from San Ramon, Mayor Brown from Pleasanton, Mayor Hernandez from Dublin, Mayor Marchand from Livermore, and Mayor Storer from Danville. So the pandemic taught us a lot. It taught us that Zoom would be an essential part of our lives, and that we would be able to see the inside of people's homes, which is sometimes the only reason to get up in the morning was to turn on the morning news and see what that broadcaster's home looked like. We found out how essential toilet paper is and how grown adults can hoard it. We found new hobbies like baking with sourdough starters or crafting. But we also learned that here in the Tri-Valley, we have a very giving community, and we've learned how important our nonprofits are. They provided food, health care, and even entertainment in our own homes. And it reinforced the importance of the relationship between our cities and the nonprofits. So each mayor was given a list of questions for today, and they chose the questions that they wanted to address. This allows us to mix things up so everyone is not answering the same question. Each mayor will be given 2 minutes to answer the questions, and I ask that they stay at the 2-minute limit so that we can have time for questions from the audience at the end. The first question, each mayor was agreed to answer, so this is across the board for all 5 of them. First question is, what motivated you to get involved with the city government? And I'm going to start with our own Mayor Marchand first.
Wow. Well, it started out when I was living here in Livermore. I'm a water chemist, and this is kind of an unlikely place for me because I hate politics. Politics is from the Latin root poly meaning many, ticks meaning blood-sucking parasites. But I was over that remark. So this is well, no, but what happened is I had the skill set that was necessary to solve a regional problem. I tested the water at my house, found out that the water did not meet federal drinking water standards for a class of suspected carcinogens known as trihalomethanes. I'm a water chemist, so I ran for the water agency, understanding that I had the skill set to change the process and to improve the livelihood for everybody in the region. And that's the thing. Politics is the price that you pay to do the public service, and it's the public service that really drives me. So, serving on the Zone 7 Water Board for 15 years, we were recognized as one of the top 10 water agencies in the entire nation out of 161,000. Actually, the 2 agencies that I worked for were recognized as 2 of the top 10 in the nation, and I like to think that that was not a coincidence. So, served for 15 years on the Zone 7 Water Board, and then another issue came up in the city of Livermore. It was defending our urban growth boundary, which really makes us a remarkable region. So I ran for the city council to preserve the urban growth boundary. Once again, having that experience and that skill set, I was uniquely positioned to run for the council. When our then mayor turned out, once again, I had the experience to continue to lead the city, and then I had 2 years off, right? It was great. But then I made the decision that I was going to give the voters a choice for proven effective leadership, and that was why I ran. And the voters decided that they wanted me back, and it's a great honor and privilege to be back here serving the city of Livermore. So thank you all.
Vice Mayor Armstrong?
Sure, I think my story kind of begins with, when you ask the question, what got me involved in local politics, it really was a phone call. I'm a Bay Area native. I had gone off to West West Point, graduated with a civil engineering degree, went into the Army, and spent a 30-year career in the Army, traveling around the United States, traveling around the world, raising my family of 4, and ended up retiring from the Army and joining FEMA, and did disaster work for about 8 years, all over the country, all over the Pacific and different territories. And then I happily retired from that in 2018. So I picked up a hobby of beekeeping. I started writing a book about one of my earlier Army deployments. And then one day I received a phone call from the former mayor of San Ramon, Bill Clarkson. And Bill said there's a vacancy on the San Ramon City Council. You need to put your name in the hat for that. I go, I don't know, Bill, that local politics really isn't my thing. Politics in general is not my thing. And he said, no, you're the right guy for it. You need to do this. And so I thought about it a little bit and figured I had a little bit more public service left in me, and go ahead and went ahead and put my name in for that. It was a competitive process. The City Council appointed me to fulfill the remainder of Dave Hudson's term on City Council when he was elected as the mayor. So I did that 2-year term, and then recently in 2022, I had to run for basically re-election, and started my second term. So that's kind of how it all came about. I just received a phone call, and it was like, okay, let's give it a try, let's see what happens. Here I am.
Yeah, I always say if those doors open, you walk through them. Mayor Brown.
Right. Well, first, thank you, TVNPA, for hosting this great event, and thank you, Cynthia, for being the sponsor. I guess I'm one of those blood-sucking, what did you call us?
Parasites.
Parasites, okay. I'm sliding a little bit more away from the camera. But I call myself an elected official, not a politician, so I guess I'm trying to skirt that term. How did I get involved in politics? Absolutely, somebody knocked on the door. And literally, in my case, knocked on the door. But we also have to consider our job is to tap the next leaders. To be that task is to ask for help. Task is to ask all of us to ask for the next leadership and who's going to be in that role. So when I originally worked in Silicon Valley in a very important job, traveled around the world, and did very well for myself. And I decided to take a few years off to spend extra time with my 3 daughters. And someone knocked on my door and said, did you see PG&E's going to put a power line down your street, 230,000 volts, which is a major distribution line, and that's going to destroy your street, our neighborhood, and we want to get involved. And at the time, or shortly thereafter, Aaron Brockovich was in the movie theater, and PG&E wasn't held on high esteem at the time. So I said, I want to get involved, and I want to be a part of the solution that comes about, which was actually rerouting that power line through a non-public area. So the summary is how to get involved. Somebody knocked on my door. I said, yes, I want to get involved. And the rest is history.
I would just like to say that I started in 6th grade when I did student council. I didn't know I was a politician.
We're public servants.
You took that away from me. No, I always like to say we are public servants. Even starting at 6th grade, I always wanted to be involved and help others with a hand up, not a hand out. And growing up in a very agricultural community in Dixon, right by UC Davis, it was honestly working class folks that were our colleagues, our peers at school, and our teachers. So it really showed us that we really needed to come together as a community, even a small community back then, many years ago. So I've been in Dublin for quite a while now. I raised my children and have been raising my children. Now they're off to college. But that's how I actually really got started in the city of Dublin, with being a volunteer. As a mom, I was able to work part-time and do the other part-time as being able to help all of our teachers, because I knew that they always needed help in the classroom, whether it was correcting papers or asking for donations from all the rest of the moms and dads. And then I got into the sports, and as your kids grow older, you kind of do what they do as well. Because I always tell my daughter, I work for you. No, all kidding aside. And then so getting involved in Dublin Little League and really showing and us coming together and how important sports are to our, not only our young community, but also to our parents. Being able to spend time with our children has been a huge one of my, coming from a big family, priorities to be able to be there for my children. And also, remembering talking with, at that time, Mayor Marchand, and I asked him, how can I get more involved? And everybody kept pushing me to say, you should really run for school board. And I'm like, oh no, I'm good, I'm gonna run for city council. He actually put me on one of our first commissions, which is the Human Service Commission that came about into our city of Dublin. I know that Livermore and Pleasanton had one already. And so when that came about, I was finally appointed on there by the supervisor now, David Halbert. And Tim Sabrani gave me the opportunity to be part of our marketing and task force in the city of Dublin, creating our logo, which is the New American Backyard. And when I sat on that committee, I felt like, okay, this is it. I really want to get more involved in our city. But at the end of the day, it comes back to helping others, and that's why I truly became a public servant. Mayor Marchand. But when we were all at Washington, D.C. Earlier January, and we were able to go to the White House and to listen to our president speak, and it's still that great moment when they announce the President of the United States and everyone stands up. To have an individual that really came from a working class, more of, working class, to be able to be part of that community and listen to President Biden say, that mayors get it done, and we get it done at the local level, and I truly back them up 100%, because when you go to the county and the state and the federal level, you'll see it's a lot slower process.
That's the politics.
Mayor Storr.
Great, thank you very much, and I want to thank the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance for all your good work, and thank you to Marty, Kathy, and Carol. I'm also joined here this morning with my Vice Mayor, Karen Stepper. Thank you for being here, Karen. And my story is pretty simple. I've been self-employed in the building industry for 39 years, and we mostly build affordable housing and housing for seniors and those with developmental disability. And over the course of many years, I was in front of many planning commissions, and at the end of the night, I'd walk away and think, God, those guys didn't know a lot, and they didn't know a set of plans, they didn't know anything about the building industry. In fact, one night, I think in 1999, I was presenting a 22-unit senior apartment building, and they couldn't even read the plans. And I remember saying some things that were not truthful at all, just to see if somebody would call me on something, and nobody did. So I came home and I said to my wife, I said, God, I could be a planning commissioner. I have extensive land use background. I understand how projects get built. I mean, this is what they do, by the way. And I didn't know anybody on the council. By chance, in the newspaper, there was a outreach for planning commissioner. And I knew it was hard to get on the planning commission in Danville, but I thought I killed my interview. I thought if they don't pick me, something is wrong in this town. And unfortunately, they did. And I spent almost 10 years on the planning commission. And because you want to be part of a community, I also got involved with Transportation Authority, Design Review Board, Heritage Resource Commission. I got on everything that I could absolutely do to learn how a town was run. And then, watching council members make incredible decisions on behalf of the community, I thought, geez, I could be a council member one day. And I threw my hat in the ring, and I lost my first election. And I didn't give up. There was an appointment because Millie Greenberg had moved on to supervisor, and didn't do well in that one either. So I stayed with it one more time, and I got involved with as many other things as I could get involved with, including the chamber, the government relations. I mean, I was involved in the community. And then finally in 2009, I was appointed to the council, and then I ran unopposed the next 2 terms. And I've had some competition over the years, but I didn't think very strong competition. So I think we're doing a pretty good job. And so technically, I've been with the town for 23 years, and I've been on the council for almost 14 years, and I've loved every second of it. But I sort of worked my way up the ladder, and I needed to know how this community was built, how it was run, and that's my story.
Thank you. Question number 2, as we look to shaping the future of our communities, what are the key issues or challenges your city is facing in 2023? And I want to start with Vice Mayor Armstrong.
Okay, thank you. First thing that comes to mind is fiscal sustainability. I think in a pre-COVID environment, we're doing pretty good to kind of recapture some of the revenue that we had. In the post-COVID environment, we're really recovering to the level that we had for pre-COVID revenue. Unfortunately, the cost of services is going up, and so it's given us a little bit of a concern that we might be starting to get a little bit out of balance, especially because we have some of the lowest sales tax and lowest property tax in the region of the Tri-Valley and in this whole, and Contra Costa County as well. And so that's a concern for us about how to kind of make sure we're going to keep up with the cost of services going into the future. Another thing is growth. That's a challenge for us. We've got requirements from the state, just like everybody else has, to be able to zone for and plan for a certain amount of housing. It's pretty significant. We did approve in 2020 a master plan called City Walk Master Plan, and that was to be able to provide up to 4,500 units of housing in the city core area. That's over across about 135 acres, and that includes retail, it includes some recreational space as well. And then recently, Chevron headquarters announced that it would vacate its property at Chevron Park, and they're still going to maintain their headquarters in San Ramon, but that large property is going to be available for something. And so there's some conceptual discussions going on between the public, between our staff, between Sunset Development, who now owns that property, as to what the future might look like. And that could include up to maybe 1,250 apartments, maybe 1,000 single-family homes and condominiums. So there's potential for some housing there. But with that kind of a growth potential in the future, when things start going vertical, and we're already starting to see fences being put up, some office buildings coming down, and that sort of thing, it's got residents concerned about all that growth. People are noticing, so we're going to have to make sure we do a good public outreach and education campaign for them. This area that I'm talking about is in the overall Bishop Ranch area, so that's a city core area, and it's got good access to transit, on and off 680, and a lot of our walking district is in that area. It ties into our bicycle master plan, and it's a decent area where as units get built out in that area, they can not only live in the area, but work as well as get to retail and play in that area as well. So that's a couple of the areas that we're taking a look at right now.
Thank you. Mayor Marchand?
Thank you. We got some big issues coming up. So one of our major efforts right now is going to be about community engagement. Because our community has to be aware of what's happening. We just completed a citizen survey, found out that 71% of the people agree with, we have a great website. 56% of the people say that they don't have enough information, and 37% said that they really don't care. So they have no interest. So there's some big decisions that are coming up that we need to have an informed populace to help inform the council what direction we need to go. So we've started this great series of short videos called Government 101, telling people how the city operates, what all the moving pieces. It's very good. We've started a series of town halls. I was the first mayor to ever hold town halls. And one of the things that was kind of troubling was that we found that there were a number of times where we actually had more staff at the town hall than we did residents. So we have a very, very well-informed staff. They're really, really good. So we're going to have these rotating town halls. We're out at the farmers markets trying to inform the public what's happening. We're at all of the downtown events. We have a number of efforts to inform the public. One of the big issues coming up is going to be the climate action plan. This is something that everybody knows about the climate action plan. We've heard about it anytime you watch the news, the rain, everything else. Climate action is a big deal. We found out that 96% of the people in Livermore polled do not have a strong understanding about the climate action plan. So this is going to be some major issues that are coming up. We need to have an informed public, so this is why the community engagement is so important. The Isabel Neighborhood Specific Plan is going to be providing over 1,000 units of affordable housing. It's going to be one of the hubs as the Valley Link comes in. It's going to be hydrogen powered, so that's going to be a major issue coming up. How we're going to be providing for our next workforce, having full trains coming in and out of Livermore, and to ensure that this is going to be really a world-class walkable neighborhood. So some three very exciting issues that are coming up, but I think number one, we need to have an engaged and informed populace. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Storr?
Great, thank you very much. It's pretty simple. The state legislature, for all of us up here, has certainly thrown a lot of curves at us, and a lot of us feel like we're losing a little bit of local control because of these state mandates. Having our community understand our mandated housing element, the town of Danville spent 2 years educating our community because on the previous housing element, we had almost 400 people in our room screaming at us, about how affordable housing. So we spent 2 years educating our community, and was able to approve a housing element that, I have to be honest with you, we sort of held our nose and just said we're going to approve this because we have to. And the fines are so incredible that we didn't have a lot of other options here. And then naturally coming out of a pandemic, and always understanding this new world that we're in, and looking at what the needs of our community are post-pandemic are different. And we had to reinvent ourselves. Our chamber had to reinvent themselves. Things that were working in the past just aren't working today, and we recognize that not only as a town, a government, but also as nonprofits, also as churches. Everybody's had to reinvent themselves. And then naturally, we always want to try to drive businesses, people down to our downtown. We want to make sure that our businesses, our services, our nonprofits are all working together. And our job as government is to reach out and do the things that we're not really good at. And with nonprofits, you do your job really, really well, and you touch people that we don't touch as government. And for me, that's a bridge that actually allows the government and our town government to partner with the nonprofits so that we can reach people that normally we would never touch. So we're really proud of that relationship.
Thank you. Next question is, what do you see as your role interacting with nonprofits, and how do you want to be approached by leaders in your nonprofit community? I'm going to start with Mayor Hernandez.
Thank you for the question. I truly believe that the nonprofit organizations are subject matters, whether it be in homelessness, domestic violence, food insecurity, or crisis intervention. They are the front lines of our community every single day. And this is something that we learned during COVID because of the fact that it was all the nonprofits that stuck around, were there to work, and were able to be able to help people. So as city leaders, we act at the professional capacity, working in concert with our nonprofits. And so I'm very proud to be able to say that I have been very involved with our nonprofits to ensure that we have the resources that they need to carry out in their missions. And so through the Human Service Grant Program, The City of Dublin provides financial support to the local nonprofit organizations serving our residents. This funding comes from our city's general fund, as through sources such as, and other sources as well, through the Federal Community Development Block Grant, which is the CDBG, the Affordable Housing Fund, and the American Rescue Plan, which is considered or called ARPA. Funding is recommended annually by our Human Services Commission, and then they bring it to the council. We turn around and we approve the list that they give us. With just, the council will do some slight tweaks, either adding a little bit more of nonprofits to be able to give extra funds to, or even adding extra money on there, knowing what their needs are. But through the county CDBG funding, we are proud to say that we were able to give $219,000 to the School of Imagination for a capital improvement project just recently. So not is it our job as elected officials and also city staff to make sure that we make our nonprofits aware of grant funding that's out there, to be able to educate them as well and say, there is A, B, and C, and you should go out and get it, because of the fact that it's so important that the nonprofits are so busy so many times that they miss the opportunity to be able to go get these grants. And also through our Human Services Grants Program, the fiscal year 2022 to 2023, the city provided over $361,000 to our local nonprofit organizations, which are doing an amazing job in our city. So I truly feel that it is our job as elected officials to work not only side by side with our nonprofits, but to also give them the opportunities to be able to get those grants that are out there, and to work together to educate our residents and letting them know about the different nonprofits organizations that are out there.
Thank you. Mayor Storr?
Thank you. It's simple. Just call me. Call any of us. The leaders of our synagogue last week, Rabbi Dan Goldblatt and Steve Harms, who's part of an Interfaith Council, which is a group of all of our churches in the community. They wanted to bring us up to speed on what good work they were doing in the community, and they had an ask and a request that we do something on Earth Day that would include, there's no room for racism, environmental consciousness, looking at mental health issues, and I knew the only way that we could actually reach out to the community the way government should is to touch those kind of organizations, the faith organizations, nonprofit organizations, because here's a fact, and I say it over and over again, nonprofits touch people that we do not. And if I just put a period at the end of that sentence, that is a big deal. So, we need you more than you need us, believe me, and that partnership is really important. The next day, we had them in our office. I had our staff, economic development coordinator, our town manager, and we were able to put something together in a very short period of time because it was a good idea, and it was necessary for the community, and things that you do that help our community is important to all of us up here. When you talk about faith-based organizations who help seniors, elderly, those suffering from mental health issues, those that are help development disabled community, which we really do support at a pretty high level. Nonprofits or those who help our community are invaluable to the town of Danville and to all of us up here. Another good example for us is the youth organizations, the Sports Alliance organizations. I look at them as nonprofits because they touch a whole segment of the community that once again we don't touch. And I say this a lot, and I want to I may even say it twice today. The role of government is not to provide all the services, but to make sure that those services are available. That's what we do. That's how simple it is. And this is where we partner with you guys, and I'm really proud of that partnership.
Thank you. Mayor Brown?
Thank you. I'm going to bring this to a personal level. So recently I got a phone call from a friend of mine who I've known for many years. I even encouraged him to run for city council. Sadly, he didn't win, but he's a good guy. And he told me that he was recently diagnosed with ALS. And for those of you who may not are familiar with ALS, it's also called Lou Gehrig's disease. And it is a degenerative disease, neurological disease that affects nerve cells, the spinal cord, and the brain. And it is not survivable. And so, of course, the first thing, my heart broke, and I wanted to call to action, what to do. So he said, actually makes guitars as a hobby from exotic woods. And he said, you know, I know a lot of people in this industry for high-end guitars and guitar players that have been world famous. And he said, what I'd like to do is work with you and see if we can't host something at our local Firehouse Arts Center. And immediately I said, I don't think that's big enough. We need to be here in the Bankhead. So I called my friend Chris Carter, and I said, Chris, this is the story of this wonderful gentleman, and I wondered if we could talk about maybe an event here at the Bankhead. And so no longer did I hang up, I opened my local Pleasanton Weekly, and there was an article about Mike Piscotti, who started a nonprofit called ALS Cure Project. And he raises funds because he lost his wife Gretchen to ALS. And it was his promise he made to her that he would do everything he could to work on funding a cure for ALS. Well, guess what? We got the right people in the room. The four of us were in the room, George, Chris Carter, and Mike Piscotti and myself. And we planned an event as a fundraiser, because we all that are sitting up here have an incredible list of people that we know within our phones. And on March 15th at 7:30 at this facility, so just a few days from now, is going to be a fundraiser. My seat is G13. I'm going to be here. Chris, thank you so much for all of the help that you've done, and thank you for the Bankhead for donating the time and helping to fund some of the guitar players. It will be incredible. If you haven't had a chance, I hope you attend. But it all started with a phone call of somebody that needed help. And it was an existing foundation. It's supported by the Livermore Lab Foundation and many others. They've raised $1.3 million already before this came along. And I am so proud to personally support such an important event. And as I went on to the ALS Cure Project website earlier today, many of their board of directors have been affected by ALS. So if it isn't somebody you know, or it's not you personally, or maybe not a family member, we're how many degrees apart from somebody you know? So 6 degrees, thank you. But without fail, it affects you. That's when you raise your hand and you say, I want to help. And I know people, and I can help put us all together. And we can do something incredible to support the ALS Cure Project on the 15th of March.
Thank you. That's a very inspirational story. Moving on. The next question is, what are the top 3 issues or complaints you receive each year? And I'm going to start, everyone buckle their seatbelts, because I'm going to start with Mayor Marchand.
Yeah, great, thanks. After this heartfelt and passionate plea, come to me about complaints and gripes. Thanks. I will be here. I will be here that night. As to echo what Vice Mayor Anderson said, fiscal health is one of the biggest priorities that we have. 93% of the people in our community put that as their number one concern, fiscal health. We just fell off a fiscal cliff with the pandemic, so people understand just how tenuous this is. What's the number one priority in Livermore is public safety. Always has been, always will be. Number one item in the budget, that is the numerical ranking of your priorities, is your budget. You spend more on public safety than anything else. For example, public safety, the police, fire, and the like. One of the challenges that we have is because of all the social media that's out there, the perception of crime is much greater. The actual fact of the matter is that it's not. Actually, our violent crime is very, very low. But because of social media, the public awareness is there. Again, our Human Services Department does a tremendous amount of work in this community. We take very limited funds that we can get from community development block grants from the state, from the feds, and we use those to provide those essential services, as Mayor Storer pointed out, to the community, working with our nonprofits. The traffic and our active transportation plan is also very important. People complain about potholes. You know, potholes are neither Republican nor Democrat. They just represent a problem that is best solved if we work together. And that's the key, working with the nonprofits, working with the local governments, working together to identify the solutions and then solve them. We're working on trail improvements. We're working on a pilot project on East Avenue, which is going to upset easily 2/3 of the people. Because a third of the people want nothing done, a third of the people want one thing done, and a third want another thing done. So whatever we do, 2/3 are going to be unhappy. So welcome to local government. But again, the priorities for our community, fiscal, health, and public safety, those will continue to be number one.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Armstrong?
Yeah, thank you. I think I have to go back to what I said in the previous question, and that one of the issues I get the most complaints about is growth. We all are planning for a lot of new housing over the next 8-year cycle. In particular, the complaints that we hear have to do with kind of the speed of that development, the amount of that development, and people, of course, want us to say no, which is really tough to do, depending upon the type of project. In particular, what they're starting to see and hear about is increasing density as well. San Ramon is, primarily single-family housing and lower density housing, and we're going to start building out that city core area that I was talking about before. That's going to be a lot higher density, a lot higher elevation, and that sort of thing. So that's got people concerned. Related to that is another area, and that's traffic. With more people, with more housing comes more traffic. In particular, we have Bollinger Canyon Road is one of our major arterials. That's a busy thoroughfare in the city, and especially with people going back to work post-COVID, more people are out on the road. And one of the good news stories is that we do have approval and funding and design plans, and even the initiation of construction for a Bollinger Canyon Road and Iron Horse Trail overcrossing. That's going to help get some of the pedestrian bicycle traffic off of Bollinger Canyon Road, create a safer conditions for people crossing there. And then the third thing I'll mention is affordable housing. I mean, and this comes from both sides. This is your NIMBYs and your YIMBYs. Either we're not building enough or we're building too much, and there's problems that come along with affordable housing. The truth of the matter is that we have young families that are people that are students that go off to college and they come back, they want to live in San Ramon. They can't. All 4 of my kids can't afford to live in San Ramon where they grew up. They're living in other places in the Bay Area now. And it's not just our young families, but it's our seniors. We need senior affordable housing as well. We do have several projects ongoing to address that issue. And there's all this missing middle as well. It's it's the cops, it's the firefighters, it's teachers and our tradespeople and that sort of thing. So affordable housing is a real issue, but you hear complaints about that from both sides of it as well. So I would say growth, traffic, and affordable housing.
Thank you. Many of our service providers received increased funding during the pandemic, and now those funds are going away, but the number of clients served has remained the same. How can you address this challenge and support your providers? Mayor Storer?
Thank you. This is actually one of my favorite questions, because this is where I think the town of Danville has done probably the best job that I've ever seen. And so during the nonprofit era of COVID, we understand that most everybody hit a financial cliff, and there was just no more money coming because there was no people out in the public. So as a council and as a town, we actually created through our ARPA funds, the American Rescue Program, we basically donated $900,000 to a series of nonprofits, starting with our Danville Chamber of Commerce, which I can't even begin to tell you how special that relationship is. They received $150,000. Discover Counseling, who helps those in need, actually received $100,000. The Danville Library Foundation and Friends of the Library received $100,000 each. Meals on Wheels was $100,000. The Museum of the San Ramon Valley, $100,000. Down Syndrome Connection, $100,000. San Ramon Education Foundation was $100,000. And then a very special nonprofit is the Eugene O'Neill Foundation, and I'll tell you how special they are in one of our next questions, but they received $50,000. And here again, while funding, ARPA goes away. So while funding is not always available or where we can provide it directly, we'd like to look at this as sort of an open door policy with our nonprofit community, so they can come in and we can go through grants, promotional grants. Each year we do a business promotion of $50,000 and we encourage nonprofits to apply. It could be as little as $1,500 or it could be as much as $25,000. But we understand how important it is to help nonprofits stay in business because we need that relationship. We support nonprofits through the business grants, the museum, every street event that we have, we're partners in. But the money goes to that entity, whether it's the Museum of the San Ramon Valley, whether it's the Eugene O'Neill Foundation, and I can't even begin to tell you how special the Eugene O'Neill Foundation has been, and we'll talk about our Friendship City in a minute. Many of our large-scale community events benefit nonprofits. Teen Esteem, here's a group that's working with disadvantaged and challenged teens. We actually were able to partner with them through our police department to get them to work with the school district. And what better way to have Teen Esteem involved in the community but through a partnership with the schools. The Chamber of Commerce, so it's always the mayor and vice mayor, and Karen Stepper and I sit on the liaison to the chamber. We want to know what's going on in the community, how we can help, where can we donate our time, donate our energy, donate our street closures. We work with staff, meets with the chamber literally almost weekly. We have a tremendous amount of funding through business promotion. We support all the large-scale events in town, whether it's a street closure, whether it's the 4th of July parade. And by the way, that 4th of July parade brings in between 30 and 45,000 people to the town of Danville. So naturally, we want that to be a wonderful partnership. Supporting funding for staff to operate the town visitor center. We, as a town, and look, all of us up here, we understand the relationship. We understand how important it is to partner with nonprofits. And we actually put our money where our mouth is. This is not a relationship where it's an arm's length relationship. We are together making good decisions, and we want you at the table while we're doing that. So thank you for contributing all the good work that you guys do.
Thank you. Mayor Hernandez?
Yes, so during the COVID, when we first hit COVID, Dublin came in a surplus, so we were able to utilize all of our ARPA funding to be able to give to not only our nonprofits, but also our small businesses and also our residents. So we had a well-diversified portfolio to be able to give out funding, and we still have funding available that we're giving out to nonprofits. But during that time, our council also increased the amount that we would generally give, that we have a pocket set aside for our nonprofits. We actually increased it to be able to give more to the nonprofits. Something that I really want to bring forward is us as elected officials, we do have a big Rolodex with not only our friends and family, but business owners as well. And I think it's so important for us to utilize, and I will also share a small little story. When I was talking to Christine Dillon from Tri-Valley Haven, her and I were having this conversation, and she said, I really want to do this thank you, small little get-together where we have appetizers and wine, and just thank all of our donors. And as you know, we always have to fundraise money for our campaigns. So I said, well, if you have a small group, why are you going to let them walk away without donating? And so I said, every opportunity that you have individuals in a small room or in a big room, then you need to make sure to ask. And so this small 25 to 50 person event of saying thank you for donating to Tri-Valley Haven for the new rebuild, we turned around and had a huge event last October, and Mayor Marchand was there supporting, and we had it at Darcy Kent Winery. And only because I am the mayor of Dublin, it does not keep me only in Dublin. I feel that I have done a really good job on branching out to Pleasanton and Livermore and San Ramon and Danville, because all the Tri-Valley cities come together. And so in that evening, the numbers kept going up on attendance, and it was only supposed to be like 75 people. By the time we sold the tickets, it was over 200 people. I was so grateful that Darcy Kent had enough lawn space to be able to host all of us. And it was a little chilly that night. We didn't have too many lights, but I said, we'll just pretend like we're camping. And we can use our flashlights on our phone, so please don't trip over anything. But that evening, it was just such a wonderful evening to be able to be outdoors, to be able to start letting COVID set aside. That evening, we made over $200,000 for the rebuild for Tri-Valley Haven. And so I feel that as elected officials, we should partner up with a few of your favorite nonprofits. Well, they're all favorite, let's just say that. But ones that we really want to make a difference. And the reason why I've chosen Tri-Valley Haven in the past is not only is it domestic violence and being able to help men and women in domestic violence situations, but also they are one of the only ones that are able to help and also house young men, young teenage boys, and not many of these facilities do that. And as a mom of a young boy, it's really important for me to be able to have a facility like that for people in need. And I know that they've been around for a really long time. So again, it just comes down to how much we can do as elected officials to partner up with our nonprofits.
Thank you. So we have about 7 minutes left before we get to questions, because I wanted the public to be able to ask questions. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to skip to the last question. And if there's something from one of the other questions you would like to put into your response, that's fine too. So I'm going to start with Mayor Brown. What else do you want the nonprofit community to know about you? And feel free to interject, because I know you have some other questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I did have a couple of the last questions. I guess we went a little longer. There are many things that I'm proud of. One is that people call me and say, hey, we're having an event, just as Mayor Hernandez mentioned, will you help? And I love doing that. I love coming to spaghetti feeds that we did for Goodness Village, but also so many others. And it means that we're open and available. But one of the questions I really wanted to answer was the one, what are you most proud of over the last 5 years? And within the city of Pleasanton, we work very closely with the Tri-Valley cities that are up here today. And with Livermore, Pleasanton, and Dublin, we hosted a How to Write a Grant seminar last fall. And many organizations aren't able to receive the funds that they really well deserve because they don't write a grant properly to be evaluated, or maybe they miss the date, and those are important. But when I look back on the city of Pleasanton in agreement and support with the Alameda County Fairgrounds, that facility became a traffic onto the freeway for people getting tested for COVID in the early days, and for people getting their shots at Alameda County Fairground. We did it in conjunction with, of course, the Alameda County and our Board of Supervisors, with Stanford Health and with Sutter Health. So together, we were able to provide something so much bigger than any of our cities, and it was extremely powerful. We worked with our small businesses downtown, and we blocked off Main Street so our restaurants could survive COVID. They told us over and over again, first of all, people don't want to come inside restaurants. We said, good, we'll block it off, we'll have a party. I saw people in coats and almost blankets, right, and mufflers, and they were just trying to stay warm, but they wanted to support those local businesses. So I want to thank them for that. We also did a shift, and we said, hey, let's help you fund parklets so you can have a place to dine outside. We're still doing every first weekend, we're going to close off Main Street. We want to support those downtown businesses. And we found out that our residents love it, so we're going to continue to do that. But we gave $1.2 million in funds. Last year, we fully funded the year before. These are for our nonprofits. I'm so proud to go to Open Heart Kitchen and support them. I'm so proud to go to Meals on Wheels and support that program and personally go and hand him my card, and I said, the mayor is delivering you your meals. And it is a lot of fun. It is a chance to also meet all these wonderful volunteers that do this every day and every week. So with great appreciation, thank you for all you do. Thank you for City Serve, who's here as well. Thank you for helping those in need. And I learned something for Supervisor Halbert and that I'm going to share. And he said when he sees somebody that is homeless, and he wasn't quite sure what to do, and so that's where the conversation started. What do I do when I see somebody I want to help? But I don't know if they want my service or they want help. So he recommended I take my business card, my mayor's business card. I write City Serve's phone number on the back, and I clip $10 to it, and I have a brief conversation, and I said, here's for a meal today, and then call City Serve, because they will help you. So that's my story. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Vice Mayor Armstrong?
Yeah, I think back to my time at FEMA, and one of the things we used to talk about was, when you have a disaster, a major event, and you need to recover from it, we would try to bring what we called a whole of community approach to it. And the reason being that government can't fix all the problems. In fact, government shouldn't fix all the problems. But there's plenty of faith-based organizations, community-based organizations, volunteer agencies, you've got philanthropic organizations, academia, the business community. A lot of people can come to bear to help solve problems, and I think that's one of the great values of the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance that they come to bring. So a couple of things about me, though, personally. My daughter, when she graduated from college, she came back. The first couple of years she was working for Tri-Valley Haven. And she really enjoyed her time working there, got some great experience. I've personally done some volunteer work, whether physically or assistance with fundraisers with our San Ramon Historic Foundation, Save Mount Diablo, the California Waterfowl Association, American Legion, and as I said, I was a beekeeper, so also Mount Diablo Beekeepers Association. These are all 501c3s. I've been given blood all my life through the Red Cross. Volunteer my time over at our historic park, Forest Home Farms, in the garden there as a gardener, and just try to get involved personally on a personal level. So, and I think everyone up here probably has that kind of a story and those experiences. So, continue to encourage everyone to get involved where they can, and just remember that it takes all of us, not government. Don't look to government to solve every problem. They're too big, there's too much of it, and there's a lot of great resources out there that we can all bring to bear to solve our problems.
Thank you. Mayor Storr?
Great, thank you. As I mentioned, we have a wonderful relationship with our nonprofits in our community. But one in particular, in about 2017 or 18, we were looking to figure out a Friendship City relationship. And as a council, we sat back and we thought, geez, we have so many opportunities here. We have Danville, Kentucky. Some people wanted Italy. Some people wanted China. Some people were looking at areas of the world that some made sense, some didn't. And then all of a sudden, Eugene O'Neill Foundation comes to us and says, Eugene O'Neill, playwright, Nobel Prize recipient, lived in Danville at the Dow House, and it would be a wonderful tribute to Eugene O'Neill and his family. James O'Neill came over during the potato famine, so the history is rich. And here is an opportunity to partner with a city that we knew nothing about. New Ross, Ireland, by chance, also happens to be the birthplace of John F. Kennedy's family. And here we had Eugene O'Neill, and we all looked at each other and said, oh my God, this makes a lot of sense. And it's all because of nonprofits reaching out to the town and helping us solve problems over and over again. And the Eugene O'Neill Foundation, I've got to tell you, has done an exemplary job. We have the Irish coming to our village theater tonight, that we're filling up the theater with Irish dancers. We have a relationship in September and October so that the Irish come here to eat and drink with all of our residents, and then we go there in October and we share this Eugene O'Neill Festival, and it is absolutely amazing. And as you know, there's many components to a successful city, and we all recognize, many of those components. We start with community safety, followed closely by good schools, because most of us probably moved to the area because of the schools. We have clean streets, we have good parks, and it doesn't hurt in Danville that we sort of have a very cute downtown with Mount Diablo and Los Trompos. That doesn't hurt either, by the way. And the next one that's probably the most important to many of us that sit on the council is the interaction with the community, and there's no better way to do this than to partner with nonprofits. And I know personally how important nonprofit partnerships are in a community. For us to represent our community fully, we need this relationship, and I've said it a million times that nonprofits to us is the bridge that helps the town government react to its citizens' needs. That's how simple it is. You guys are the bridge that helps us touch people that we do not ever touch. And that's why this relationship is important, and this is why I can't thank you enough, and we're very grateful to have this relationship with all nonprofits in our community. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Mayor Hernandez?
I'll try to be quick because I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to add some of our proud moments that we've had in Dublin the last several years before I go on to the last question. And just wanted to, for many that know me, know that mental health and mental awareness has always been a priority to me, not only because of COVID, but before COVID, we started seeing the trends in our communities with domestic violence and getting more phone calls into our police. And so what we came up with is to be able to have 2 clinicians and a supervisor to assist those who are going through a long-term or immediate mental health related issue. It is also Dublin police officers, to do police work instead of intervention crisis at that time. So I'm also proud to, part of the recent establishment of the Special Needs Registry. The volunteer registry is a channel for parents or guardians of community members with special needs to provide first responders with information regarding any assistance those persons may require during interaction with Dublin Police and also our Alameda County firefighters. And this registry is for someone of any age with any medical conditions or disabilities, so that when they approach that house, the department, that unit, that they are able to have a little bit of already some history so that they're well equipped moving forward. And also, it's in the works, and it's actually a collaboration with Supervisor Halbert's office and our Dublin staff and myself, is to be able to bring in jobs for IDD individuals that will be creating jobs in our parks area, to be able to show them responsibility, to get them out and going out of their homes, and to be able to make them feel comfortable for when their mom or dad or their guardian passes away, so that they have someone to be with as well. One of the what I want to let and share with our nonprofits is that the Eastern Alameda County Human Services Needs Assessment is actually underway as we speak, and it is an assessment that Dublin, Livermore, and Pleasanton do together. And so, as many of you know, I also have a dual role in that I work in concert with nonprofits, helping them carry out their missions while serving in a professional capacity through working with Supervisor Howard in Alameda County. So together with other Alameda County and other Tri-Valley cities, we work collaboratively to guarantee and to also bring a greater impact into our regions. We advocate those coalitions building and sharing of ideas. We pull our financial resources together. We need as a group with congressional leaders to bring funding into the entire area. So as the need for mental health services in Tri-Valley has increased dramatically in the past few years, especially through the pandemic, the cities of Dublin, Livermore, and Pleasanton, and Alameda County established Access Bridge Mental Health Urgent Care. So if you haven't heard of it, you need to make sure you're aware. And this collaboration with these nonprofits have been so important. And it really just shows how well we work together in the Tri-Valley to be able to help our nonprofits. And I cannot wait to get the as human services assessments so that we can analyze, be able to fill those gaps, and put our best work forward.
Yes, I would just like to say too, if you're a nonprofit in Dublin, Livermore, or Pleasanton, and you have not been a part of the needs assessment, please do reach out to your city staff so you can be a part of this, so that we can plan for the future. Mayor Marchand.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for putting this program together. It's great to bring everyone together and to have this community conversation. Just want to touch briefly on some of the things that I'm most proud of over the last 5 years. Yeah, I've been out for a couple, but we've had a wonderful trend where we've been able to get things accomplished here in the city of Livermore and throughout the Tri-Valley. With the to Mayor Storer, he talked about his cute downtown, but yes, remember, our downtown was voted #1 in the East Bay. Right here in downtown.
Okay, you better be careful, Dublin's around the corner.
They're working on that, yep.
We're down the street.
So,
Working on it downtown.
so one of the things that you may have noticed here, we are not politicians. We are public servants. And the way you can tell the difference is because of the passion that we bring to this table. The reason that they've got that overcrossing at Bollinger Canyon is because we went back to Congress as a region and talked about the importance of these connectivity projects to keep the Tri-Valley connected. And that's what we do. We've been able to get things done. In the city of Livermore, we added 3 parks in the last few years. We accomplished projects that were 57 years in the making that we finally got done over the finish line. We added 57 new pieces of public art, contributing to that wonderful quality of life that we have. Those were acquired at no public expense. The most recent poll, 92% of the people in Livermore agree it's a great place to live and raise a family. 92%. You can't get 92% of people to agree the sky is blue today. But yet, well, maybe not today. But the fact that we have this success of people understanding, and part of that is the wonderful work that all of you do. Open Heart Kitchen served millions of meals over the last couple of years during the pandemic to serve those that were the greatest in need. City Serve does a remarkable job, and all of the other nonprofits. Tri-Valley Haven celebrated I recognize their 40th year, and now they're pushing up on the 50th year. And man, it was cold that night. Oh, damn. But we were all there, and we stayed there. So it is this passion that all of us bring. How do you know something is important? The mayor shows up, right? and we all show up. Woody Allen said 90% of success is showing up. And that's what we as mayors do. We show up to support our communities, to support the region, and to ensure that we maintain the remarkable quality of life that all of us here in the Tri-Valley share. And I want to thank all of you for being part of this and working together to keep this a remarkable place to live, work, and play. Thank you all.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. So, in the audience, we do have microphones. Yay. So, where Kathy is, and then I believe there's one over here too. We have questions from the audience. Come on, don't be shy. Oh, Chris Carter.
Can you just hear me if I stand up?
Yes.
That's good.
And I am going to repeat it so we can make sure it gets
Okay. This is easy questions. What's one thing that you see one of the other cities in the Tri-Valley has or does really well that you wish you had in your own community?
It's a loaded question, Chris.
So that's an easy question.
So what does another city in the Tri-Valley do best that you would like to see in your city?
Yes.
Yes. Who would like to start?
Let me begin, because we're on the sort of the beginnings of understanding what public art looks like, and I do appreciate what the other cities have done with public art. And Mayor Marchand mentioned that there's 50 pieces of public art that have come to fruition in the city of Livermore, and we're still sort of in the infancy stages, so we're learning from the other community what public art actually looks like in Danville. So that's a big deal to us, and we're going to solve this problem, but you have to look at those to my right here that have done that already and have done it really well. So when we have something that's coming up that we need to look at and it's new to us, we reach out to many cities, especially the Tri-Valley. That's where we start first, because we are really well placed. Together, we're 330,000 people, which in California would represent one of the top 10 cities. So naturally, we look to advice to the four next to me, because they are a good resource to us.
Yeah, I'm gonna step
That's a Danville compliment, by the way.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud of our public art and our art gallery, Harrington Art Gallery. Alan Burnham, we need a facility for nonprofits in the city of Pleasanton. What you have here in Livermore is unique and special. I know it's not done free, but when I've gone to the opening, and now you're getting ready for a 1-year anniversary, the business and the nonprofits that are in that facility, where you just walk door to door to door, and you're filled with that there is hope for the future, that there are volunteers that are willing to put their time. And sometimes your time is the most precious thing you have to offer to others. But that seed that you planted here in Livermore, please think about propagating it to some communities. Thanks.
Thank you, and I'm just going to do a plug for our 1-year anniversary next Thursday at 5 o'clock. Thank you, Mayor. Other mayors?
Has anybody like what Danville's been doing? The people. So there are people in all of our communities that work within all of these communities. So not everybody that works in Livermore lives in Livermore. So we have people that come from Pleasanton, in Danville, in Dublin, in San Ramon, that come to our communities and contribute. So Livermore's an amazing place, what can I say? But part of that is because we have people that come from all around this region to work here. So we can't have all of the remarkable people in Livermore, so they also live in some of our communities.
How do we cut off this mic?
And he says he's not a politician.
Do we have other questions?
Well, I wanted to add.
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Okay. So I just want to add, we don't really have like envy or any town envy or city envy. I always like to say that we're unique in our own ways. Every city is unique in our own ways, and I love, Danville's downtown. I worked in Danville for 20 years, and so I'm kind of a little biased. I love Livermore's downtown. I work currently in Pleasanton, so I always like to share the wealth, and can't live out the city center. Can't live out the city center, but
What about San Ramon's downtown?
So, as you know, Dublin is a very young city. We're only 40 years old, and we are creating our downtown. But our downtown will be unique in the fact that it's not going to be just one street because of the way we came about. So it'll be 4 main streets, which would be Village Parkway, Dublin Boulevard, San Ramon Valley Boulevard, and Amador. And so eventually our downtown will be just as good as our neighbors, or even better. But all kidding aside, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone taking the time out of your day and dealing with the rain and the cold weather to be out here and to really show appreciation for all of our nonprofits, because it really truly is our nonprofits that make the backbone of not only our individual cities, but as the Tri-Valley. And I always like to say that we, not only as mayors, but as elected officials and our city council members and our staff as well, always work together really, really well. And it makes the Tri-Valley unique in who we truly are.
I thought I saw another hand. Oh, someone right there at the microphone.
Hi there. If you hear me. I'm Nick from Bay Area. So I know this is mostly about nonprofits helping the community, right? But I have a question for y'all. a lot of small businesses also engage with nonprofits, much like our work with Quest Science Center Plaza. So my question is, what can cities do to better engage small businesses which closely work with those nonprofits?
So I'll go ahead and answer that one, since I just met with Nick yesterday via Zoom, trying to help his small business. But I truly feel that Dublin, when COVID happened, we had to pivot and we had to, think outside of the box, and I'm sure you all have heard that so many times. But what we have been doing and we are doing is, if you go on our website, we're actually partnership with being able to bring our cash dollars in Dublin. So we use some of our ARPA funds to be able to give back to those businesses. But in return, our residents get Dublin dollars, and they are able to use them in other businesses as well. So it's a win-win situation for the businesses that could give potential money to the nonprofits and also to our residents in Dublin. And then we're also offering small classes that you can sign up through our website, and it's about for small businesses that may not be a big business to be able to provide the big human resources and high-paying person to provide those services, not only in our businesses, but you can take classes online that we provide in different entities. And so that's something new that we're doing for businesses. And also we created a booklet to be able to have our small businesses change with time, with after the pandemic, with how are they going to be able to utilize their place of business and the square footage a little bit better, so that they get more residents coming into their place of business. So I always feel that Dublin has done. We have our concierge, where if you want to come and open a small business, we literally walk you through that. And our business license is very, very low. We don't charge for a high business license fee, because we want to be able to give everyone the opportunity if they wish to open a small business. And being able to support our small businesses will then be able to have them support our nonprofits.
Mayor Marchand?
Well, one of the things that we do is we create the environment that will enable the businesses to succeed. For example, during the COVID, where we had grants and we made modifications in permitting that enabled the small businesses to continue to thrive during that. Working to bring in something as basic as affordable housing, so that people can afford to live and work here, so they don't have to get into a mind-numbing 4-hour commute over the Altamont. That they can't afford to live and work here. So I think one of the important things we can do is to create that environment that attracts businesses and attracts people to work in those businesses, and then to use those businesses. We work with Livermore Downtown and also our chamber to encourage people to buy from small businesses and to support them. So absolutely, it's got to be a partnership.
Thank you. I think there's one gentleman right here.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi. Phil Tucker. I'm in Congressman Eric Swalwell's office. I also happen to live in the great city of Dublin. Thank you, Mayor, for all your events. My question actually is, every week we get a list of federal grants that are available for either nonprofits, small business. My role with the congressman is to help small businesses with many of the federal grants and loans that are out there. But what I'm hearing is that there's a whole host of funding that's available, everything from nonprofits to infrastructure projects and whatever. So typically I get the information out to the various chambers, Dublin, Pleasanton, but I'm hearing maybe our outreach should go a little bit further. So who in your particular area should we reach out to make them aware of those federal grants?
I would interject here and say the Human Service Commissions. You should be coming in and presenting to us, and we can invite the nonprofits to the Human Service Commission meetings. I'm on the one for Livermore, but
For me, it would be our economic development individual, because she has access to so many avenues of nonprofits, and also keeping up of what's going on in Dublin, but not only Dublin, in the Tri-Valley. And so we have the texting ability in the city of Dublin, where you can sign up and you get a text on everything that's more or less going on. You're probably getting more texts than you need, but we are really transparent and always working and striving hard to be able to let our community and also the surrounding areas and cities to be able to say, this is what's going on. And in case of an emergency, in case of funding being out there, and also something like this right now that you're making us aware of.
Yes, Mayor Brown?
Yeah, if I could, first you can send it to me, kbrown@cityofpleasanton.ca.gov. But Economic Development Director isn't perfect. That's Lisa Adamos at the City of Pleasanton. You know, even though we have a terrific Chamber of Commerce, not all businesses are members of the Chamber of Commerce. And so federal funds shouldn't be restricted in any manner. So I would say reach out to the city. We support all businesses, but then let us disseminate that information, let us post it. We absolutely appreciate funds from Eric Swalwell's office. Thank you, Congressman, as well as thank you for thinking about us. But even the funds that come through the city and then we distribute, many of those are coming from the federal government. So again, thank you. Let us vet those out and let us help make that determination. Some small businesses have a hard time with all the reporting that's required by the federal government. So when we distribute the funds, that helps because they only need to report to us. You know, we report to you. I hope that helps. Thanks.
And I would add that as a community, you know, all of us are very aware that federal and state fundings that are grants or, you know, what we look at as sort of money coming in to help specific functions. So we work with Townsend and Associates as our lobbyists, and they're always out on the look for grants. And then we have a federal analyst, or one of our town staff is a legislative analyst. She keeps track of all of our state and legislative, you know, bills that we need to follow. And of the 2,600 bills that are out there, 200 basically affect all of us up here. So we're well aware of that. And then National Economic Development, we're always helping. If there's grants that we're aware of that you could help us with, we've put that information out to our nonprofits to say, hey, there's somebody out there you might want to consider it. And you'd be the perfect profile for what that money is to be used for.
So our city manager is here today, Mayor Marchand, and so she's used to getting all of these emails from me saying, FYI, FYI, for your information. Because when I get those notifications and the newsletters from your office and from others, and I see there are grant funds available, I always send that to our city manager and to our economic development department, so that they're the ones that are connected throughout the community, and they can continue to spread that information. So thank you very much for what you're doing.
And for the city of San Ramon, also in the audience is our interim city manager, Stephen Sadowski. In fact, he's back there in the raising his hand. And he'd be a good point of contact to get with in terms of potential resources. In particular, I can think of some infrastructure type of resource funding that we could sure use some help with.
Thank you. So we're up on 12:30. So we're gonna close this out. I want to thank all of our mayors, and I'm gonna have Kathy hand it up.
So I just want to say real quick to Phil Tucker, one, you can also send it to us, any notifications, and we send those out directly to our members, any notifications of grants. And then I just want to thank everybody who attended today. You know, Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance was started because, I share my experiences. It was, I had a problem and I knew somebody nearby knew the answer and I didn't know who they were. And I met Moni Knop in the elevator right over there, and we all of a sudden invited everybody we knew, and that was, this meeting today represents our 9-year anniversary from our very first meeting. And from that, we just have built these connections, and we have the connections with our government, we have the connections with our small businesses, with our bakers, with all of it, and our motto really is, together we are better. And so we thank everyone who took the time out of their day to show up. And we have a small gift token for each of our mayors, courtesy of Marty. So we presume that they drink wine. So as Marty has said, their gifts, can you please just help me? And have a great day, and we hope we see you either at Common Point or